Hey guys, it's me, and today I want to do a video about something that is right now really important to me and affecting me daily, that I haven't really seen a lot of videos on, but to be completely honest with you, I haven't really searched YouTube for videos pertaining to this subject. But as a lot of you guys know, if you follow me on Facebook or here even, or just my blog, or Instagram, obviously. Sorry, I'm like fidgeting. My hair is really gross right now. I haven't showered today. But anyways, I have something that's called endometriosis. In short, we like to call it endo, which I understand is also like a trick you do on a bike, but it's definitely not the same. What endometriosis is it's basically an autoimmune disorder or disease which is incurable or uncurable. I never know which one is the right word to use. And it's basically a disease that is inside my body and it is eating away at my insides. It sounds disgusting, and honestly, after I saw the pictures of my insides, it was kind of gross, but basically it has a lot of different range of symptoms, and sometimes they're mild, sometimes they're severe, and it can also cause infertility or infertility issues. It can cause a lot of things. So I kind of just wanted to talk about, because I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, just kind of how I feel with it, how like things have changed in the last year since I started talking about my endometriosis, when I started having attacks and all of that. So I wanted to just sit down and talk to you guys about it. I was officially diagnosed with endometriosis after I had my tubal done after Kaya was born. I say officially diagnosed because apparently to be officially diagnosed, you have to actually see it, which I think sucks. When I had my tubal done, they went in with a laparoscopy. They had like a little camera and stuff and were looking around, and my doctor spotted signs of it. Basically, it was pitting. He said that I probably had it for a long time because it was like he was looking at my insides, and in the cavity walls there would be a hole and then another hole and another hole and hole. So it was like tunneling through my cavities. It was also, you know, stuck on some other organs, I'm not sure, because what it can do is it can start binding your organs together. Basically what happens is I'm bleeding outside of where I should be bleeding. So when you have a period every month, your lining starts thickening on the inside of your uterus, and then you shed it, and that's where the bleeding goes, and that's why you have a period. With endometriosis, you bleed outside of your uterus in areas that you shouldn't be bleeding, and then it eats away at things, and then it causes scar tissue to bind organs together and all of that fun stuff. I was really shocked when I heard that. But then after he started telling me the symptoms and after I started doing research on my own, it made total sense. Growing up, I started my period when I was really young. I was about in, I want to say the summer before 4th grade, so I was about 9 or 10. So I started really early. I was always a heavy bleeder. Like, I'm talking like 5 jumbo tampons plus pads, like throughout the day, and then at nighttime I would have to like get up in the middle of the night and change my tampon and my pad because I would start overflowing. And I had long and erratic periods. Sometimes it'd be 28 days, sometimes it'd be 30 days, sometimes they'd last for 4 days, sometimes they'd last for over a week. It was just always like that. I remember waking up in junior high and having constant pain and cramping or diarrhea or just nausea and just having just all these other weird things that I didn't really correlate or relate to having my period. I think my parents thought that I was probably being a little bit too sensitive at the time, which is funny because my mom's an OBGYN nurse practitioner. But, you know, at that age, it's kind of like, oh, she doesn't have any, you know, like, who would think, like, oh, she has an incurable, like, autoimmune disorder. So basically, ever since I hit puberty, I've been kind of miserable with my period. But I've never been in so much pain that I couldn't, like, lay in bed or something. Like, it was just, like, it felt like just severe PMS cramps with a whole lot of bleeding. So after I had I've always had chronic back pain. Let's go back a little bit. I've always had chronic sciatic issues. I went and saw an orthopedist because I started having just really bad back pain, and they said I had some inflammation in my SIJ joint. So I have SIJ, which is sacroiliac joint disorder. I'm just a ball of fun, aren't I? And I actually got some steroid injections done, which were really painful and didn't help. So basically, yeah, so I have SIJ. So on top of that, about I want to say a year ago now, this fall will be a year ago, one night I woke up in just an unbearable pain. It was so excruciating. It literally felt like I was having a baby. I've had 2 naturally, so I know that feeling very well. It felt like somebody was taking a hot searing rod and stabbing it through my right side of my groin, where my hip bone is, to my back. And it just hurt, and it was just waves and waves of just this excruciating pain. I also felt like I had to go number 2. Like, I felt like I had to take a huge shit. Like, not to be crude, but, you know, I just felt just sick all of a sudden. So I went to the toilet, and I just sat there and just cried and grabbed my side, and my husband woke up, and I tried explaining it to him, and, you know, he just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. It was so weird. We ended up going in the emergency room because my mom thought that it could have been appendicitis because it sounded kind of similar to appendicitis. And when I got there, of course, they did every single test. They even tested me for like gonorrhea and chlamydia, even though Lord knows I would not have that. But they had, you know, they tested me for all these things. They did a pelvic, they gave me Percocet and all that junk. And the Percocet didn't even really do anything, and I was just in so much pain. They ended up sending me home just with a prescription for narcotics and just writing it off as a fluke incident. I even told them, though, that I had been, diagnosed with endometriosis like the year before during my tubal, and they just, whatever. I should also mention, I'm so off track right now, I'm sorry. I should also mention that the attack didn't start until after I started breastfeeding my daughter, so until my cycle came back. So after that, it took maybe 2 or 3 days of just lying up in bed, just in pain. And after like 2 or 3 days, the pain went away, and then I thought I was fine. Exactly 28 days later, I felt terrible again. It was so bad, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't get off the toilet because I still felt like I had to go poop, but never did. And there was just pressure down there and just pain. And I just remember just feeling sick to my stomach. And I couldn't get out of the toilet, and so once again, John dragged me out the door and took me to the emergency room. This time, since they had me on, they knew my records that I'd been there the month before that, they basically looked at me like I was nuts. They still took an ultrasound, nothing was there, my ovary wasn't twisted, whatever. They did a pelvic again, which was extremely invasive, and all this other junk, and gave me narcotics, and once again sent me on my way, basically treating me like I was like a drug seeker. 28 days later after that, I once again fell just terribly, terribly ill and just felt like crap. This time it was probably the most painful time out of the 3. Again, John and I were both scared. He took me to the hospital, and this attack lasted so long. I ended up having to stay at the hospital on, I believe they gave me morphine, and then the morphine wasn't doing anything, so they gave me Toradol, I believe is what it's called. And the doctor gave me what she said was enough to put an elephant on their ass, and I still was in massive, massive amounts of pain. And so for about 2 days, I was in the hospital, just unconscious, on drugs, laying there in pain. They still couldn't find out what was wrong. They took an MRI and all this other junk that I'm still paying off to this day, and they said that it was probably a mixture of my endometriosis and my SIJ. No, they blatantly blamed it on my SIJ joint, actually. They said it was my SIJ because I had inflammation there. So then I went and I talked to a bunch of specialists, and I talked to my OBGYN, and my OBGYN shot me with a Depo shot, which is it's Depo-Provera. And what that does is it stops my cycles altogether, because it seemed like it was happening exactly every 28 days, which is what my cycle was on. Even though I wasn't bleeding, though. That was another thing, is I had an ablation when I had my tubal, so I don't bleed anymore. I don't have actual periods, so I never knew when I was cycling. So because they thought that, this correlated, they gave me a Depo shot, and it stopped my cycle completely. After that, I had no pain. When my time of the month came around, I would start having some nagging cramping in my side or some back pain, and I knew at that point that it was due to the endometriosis because the Depo was helping, so I made sure to just take it extra easy around that time. Since then, this was back in last September, I've really done a lot of research on endo because I wanted to know exactly what was going on with my body and all of that. Endometriosis really sucks. I felt like crap those 3 months because not only was it kind of okay, am I going to have an attack next month? Because it puts you on your ass for about a week. You think, okay, I can't do anything fun this week. I can't make sure to schedule anything this week. I need to figure out what to do with my kids this week because I know I'm going to be in bed like on narcotics, in pain, and then also just chronically fatigued for the next 3 days. So it's just, it really puts a damper in just your lifestyle, and it really just makes you feel completely helpless and just crazy insane. So many doctors gave me these looks like, it can't be that bad, or what's wrong with her, or she's just trying to get drugs, or come on now, like, you know, like, just everybody just kept giving me answers of different things when I knew truly what it was, and I could feel the pain, but on the outside I looked normal, and everything that they did test-wise looked normal. And it was just really hard to deal with the fact that nobody believed me except for my husband, my mom, and my OBGYN, that I was in so much pain. So I did a lot of research on it, and I came across a bunch of support groups that just, like, it had exactly the same feelings as me. Some people actually suffered month round. Some people only had it on their weeks of their cycle, like that's like me. Some people had it, you know, every 2 weeks, and, you know, everybody was different, but the same thing was that we all had excruciating amounts of pain and difficult periods. In regards to, like, symptoms, this is what sucks about endometriosis attacks. So whenever I have a flare-up, not only am I in so much pain that I can't do anything but sometimes cry, but on top of that, I can't sleep because insomnia is part of that as well. So, and then also when you're in so much pain at night, you just don't sleep. On top of that, chronic fatigue is also a very common symptom of any autoimmune disorder, which I get for about 3 or 4 days after an attack. So I'm just like, I can't even function sometimes. And then on top of that, you get terrible, terrible diarrhea. And constipation, like a mixture of two. Like, you really feel like you have to go, but you can't, and then by the time you can go, it feels like you're passing a baby through your ass, and it just hurts so bad. And then you also get nausea and hot flashes and just terrible back pain, you know. Because it's an autoimmune disorder, after you have attack as well, your immune system's just shot. So I usually always get like a cold or the flu or a cold sore. Something always happens right after the attack and I get back to normal. So it's basically like a 2 weeks out of my month, I just feel like crap. Either I'm having a flare-up or I'm sick from the flare-up. That's kind of how I've been living my life since last September. I had about a 5-month break where I felt great on the depot and everything was going well. But then, as you guys know, I chose to donate eggs to my friend, and I knew going into that things could get worse for me. My doctor was very, very, very informational in that. He really didn't want me to do it. He didn't think that it was good for my health and my well-being, but he understood my want to do it, so he supported me. I felt fine during everything. I had an attack between the time before I got on the birth control after my depot wore off, which I was expecting that, but since I was expecting it, I was able to take it easy the week before, because the more active you are before a flare-up, the worse it is when it comes. So I made sure to take it really easy and not do a whole lot before my flare-up came, and so I was able to tolerate it with Percocet and ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is a godsend, 800 milligrams. It just takes the inflammation down and just really helps. But I was able to tolerate that, and then I got on the other birth control for my donation cycle, and then I was fine. Then came the injections, which I thought would really bother me, but they didn't, and then came the retrieval, and I was fine through that. But then 2 weeks after the retrieval, all hell broke loose. Last month, I had the worst endo attack that I've ever had in my life. Percocet did not do squat. It didn't even put a dent in it. I had a period of time where I was laying in bed and I felt like dying. Not because I felt like I was dying, but because the pain was so bad that thinking about having this pain once a month for the rest of my life just really felt like living wasn't worth it. I just laid there in bed. Like, it was just terrible. You couldn't move. You're just paralyzed because, you know, if you move or you try to scrunch up, like, the pain will get worse. And so you just lay there just as a shell, just hoping and praying that the pain just stops until you... So basically, I would just take as much Percocet as I was allowed and tolerate the pain until I just pass out from just exhaustion of dealing with it. For about 3 or 4 days that went on, and then after that it was a dull numbing pain, but I was so exhausted from the flare-up and so worn out from being, you know, having the chronic fatigue, that for about a week I just felt like a snail. Like I couldn't move. Everything made me tired. And I basically was just I tried to hold it together as well as I could because I had 3 kids I had to take care of. After that, I thought I was in the clear, but I now have flare-ups randomly. If I work my body too hard, I pay for it the next day, whether it's because I'll be so exhausted from the chronic fatigue or I have terrible cramps because I carried Kaya too much, or I did too many loads of laundry, or I was on my feet for too long. Before I donated my eggs, like I said, only had 1 flare-up a month. Since I donated my eggs, I've had probably about a dozen. They haven't all been as bad as that last one, but they've been enough where I've had to take a Percocet or sit down or decide I wasn't going to go do something because it wasn't comfortable. I don't know what's in my future. A lot of people have advised me or told me or suggested that I get surgery done. There is a procedure where they go in and they basically just fry out all of the endo and hope that it doesn't come back. But my doctor does not think that that's a safe thing. It's very invasive, and he doesn't think it's worth it because even if you take away as much endo as you can, there's a chance that a tiny bit will be hidden behind somewhere and still be there, and that can cause just as much pain as a little bit of it. And he also said that my chances for growing it back is very high as well. So he doesn't think that the few months or possible year of being pain-free is worth possible, problems during a procedure. And I agree. The thought of doing a hysterectomy has been floated around, which would mean them taking out my uterus and my ovaries, because what feeds the endo and helps it grow and progress is hormones and estrogen. And I'm a girl, so I have a lot of that every month. So that is one of the suggestions as well. But again, my doctor doesn't want to take all of that out of me until I'm older, because I'm only 27 and I'm really young and I have a lot of living to do. And he just doesn't want to take all of my female lady parts before I hit 30. So, and again, even if they do take that out, there's no guarantee that that will stop my attacks as well. So basically, what I'm dealing with is an unknown future for myself and my body, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, chronic back pain, possible bone loss because Depo-Provera and Lupron, which are the 2 things that they use the most to stop the progression of endometriosis, can cause bone loss in women. That's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. It's hard because when you look at me and when other people look at me, they think that there's nothing wrong. Like, how could somebody who looks so normal have such, like, crappy inside body parts that cause her immense amount of pains all month long? A lot of times I feel like I am just complaining or a whiner, or it might be all in my head. Sometimes I purposely don't take my Percocet because I just want to feel the pain to make sure I'm not just making it up in my head. It's hard living a life where you don't know what's going to happen the next day, or you feel like you can't do certain things because you don't want to suffer the next day. It's hard getting all this like outside advice from people who don't even have it, so they wouldn't really know. And it's hard also dealing with a bunch of people who don't know anything about endometriosis, so they treat you like crap when you have an attack and you're just trying to get help or relief or understanding. I have a lot of close friends now that know my situation and who are so supportive. My husband has seen me through 4 horrible attacks now and knows how to kind of deal with me and knows when I need my rest and knows when to tell me to stop doing something. And my mom, she's really helpful too, because she knows what I'm going through as well. And my OBGYN knows what's going on too. But it's just hard when you're like laid up in bed and you feel like crap, or you can't do anything because you're so exhausted, when everybody else is kind of just living this carefree life. And then it's also hard because like here, and I'm not saying I've gotten any of that from people, but like I can only imagine people thinking, on my social media accounts, because one day I'll post, oh, I'm like sick in bed and I can't move and all of this, and the next day I'm all dolled up and pretty because I feel good again. I can only imagine what people are thinking, like, oh, this girl's just pretending. And that's basically what I've gotten this last year from doctors who didn't understand what I had was just like people not believing your pain, and that just is really hard. I follow this endo support group, and I heard that there have been 5 endometriosis related deaths this year so far. 3 of them were suicides, and 2 of them were due to complications because of endometriosis. I'm not sure what kind of complications, whether it was a surgery gone wrong or because their organs got attached and something happened. I don't know. But the 3 suicides thing really hit me hard because, like I said, during my last attack, I felt like dying. I just felt like it wasn't worth it to live a life of just terrible pain whenever it decides to just start or happen. Lately, I've been really kind of sad because I'm having to face the reality that what I have is not curable, and what I have could possibly just get worse as I get older. And that's really hard to deal with. Since the egg donation and my attack, I've tried to change a lot of the things that I'm doing. I'm trying to drink more water, eat healthier. I'm trying to look into ways of naturally helping with my endo, but the reality is it's part of me, and it's something that I'm now going to have to deal with for the rest of my life, and I just feel like I'm too young to have to deal with this kind of stuff, and it just seems really unfair and hard. I can only imagine what those 3 women were feeling when they decided to do what they did, because, again, when I was at my darkest point last month, I just didn't feel like it was worth it. And I can only imagine they felt really lonely, because the only thing that stopped me from going any further was because I have 3 kids. I have 3 beautiful kids who need me, and I love them, and that's what I basically thought about the whole time when I was in pain. I have a husband who needs me, and I have parents who would be really sad, and friends that would be really sad, and that's basically what got me through it. So I can only imagine that these people maybe felt so lonely and so lost that they didn't know what else to do, and that just makes me really sad. The pain is really real. The symptoms and side effects that you have because of the pain is really real, and I wish people would be more understanding of that. And I hope that by sharing my story and what I go through on a monthly basis and now on a daily basis will help those who have it to feel more comforted that they're not alone. Or if you know somebody who has this, maybe kind of get an understanding that it's not just in that person's head, and to maybe be a little bit kinder to them. But yeah. So I don't know if I explained that very well, but I just wanted to just put that out there. Like I said, I probably had this my entire life, but I'm just now having the issues, and I don't know if that's because it's just gotten so progressively worse, or because I was pregnant and breastfeeding for like 3 or 4 years straight. I just didn't notice it. But yeah, I'm really lucky that it didn't affect my fertility. I was really young when I had them, but if I wouldn't have been so young, then I possibly couldn't have ever had them. So yeah. But I'm going to let you guys go because this is getting long and my camera space is running out. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to leave them below.